Senator Butler, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Chairman Peters. And I want to thank the witnesses for your service, for your time, and for your testimony. I'd like to pick up Secretary Mayorkas and my colleague, Senator Marshall's questioning around fentanyl. The Cato Institute published a report in August 2023 noting that United States citizens make up 89% of all convictions of fentanyl trafficking crimes compared to 8.9% unauthorized immigrants. This year, less than 1% of the people arrested at the border for making unlawful crossings possessed any fentanyl whatsoever. So, Secretary Mayorkas, how is the department targeting your fentanyl strategies, knowing that the overwhelming majority of our fentanyl traffickers are United States citizens?
Senator, there's an additional fact that I'd like to share before I answer the question, and that is that more than 90% of the fentanyl that is trafficked across the border actually comes through the ports of entry, predominantly in passenger vehicles and commercial trucks. And therefore, we have surged our resources to the ports of entry. And by resources, I mean not only our incredibly talented Office of Field Operations personnel in U.S. Customs and Border Protection, but also our non-intrusive inspection technology and our forward operating labs. We have surged our resources, and we have done so in a very strategic way through operations that have been developed, such as Operation Blue Lotus, that yielded tremendous results.
Thank you for that. Director Wray, this year's DHS terrorism bulletin warned that domestic violent extremists were expected to target several vulnerable groups, including the LGBTQ+ community. The FBI's annual hate crime statistics report revealed a 13.8% increase in hate crimes based on sexual orientation and 32.9% surge in hate crimes based on gender identity over the previous year. This hatred, I think we all can appreciate, heartbreakingly so, has really impacted communities across the U.S. In just 20 days, our nation will be commemorating the 1-year anniversary of the Club Q shooting in Colorado Springs that led to the deaths of 5 people and wounded 17 others. Director Wray, why do you believe that there's been such a terrifying surge in hate crimes attacking the LGBTQ+ community?
Well, I'm not sure I know the answer. What I would tell you is that I think it may be part of a broader phenomenon that we're seeing in this country, that people, no matter what their motivation is, no matter what their hatred or their ideology is, are choosing to express that hatred or motive through violence. And that's where the FBI gets involved. We do know that hate crimes in general are chronically underreported, and so we've been trying to work with all affected communities to improve reporting so that we can have a more accurate picture about how much it's increasing and how much individual categories are increasing. But there is a problem, a societal problem right now, of people manifesting hatred through violence. And it's perfectly appropriate for people to have hateful views, and there's an opportunity to call out hateful views in the right quarters. But violence and threats of violence is something that we cannot and will not tolerate.
I appreciate how you ended there, as it helps me get to my next question, Director Wray. Thank you for that. This country and the state of Maine experienced life-altering shooting just last week. And as I know, are the sentiments shared by my colleagues, the representatives of Maine, and all of us here, a deep sense of sorrow for the lives lost last week. Now, I know that the FBI collects data on active shooter incidents, including what types of guns are used in committing homicides. How does the proliferation of mass shootings involving high-capacity weapons impact the Bureau's work to keep our nation safe?
Well, certainly individuals who are inclined to commit violent attacks, if they use a weapon that gives them greater capacity, have greater potential for lethality.
And do you find it with the Bureau's work that it makes your work as an agency more difficult, more challenging? How does that, the accessibility of these weapons, the scope and scale of what is the lethality that is possible, how does that impact the work of your officers, whether in Maine or other instances where we've seen these type of weapons used?
Well, dangerous weapons represent dangers to law enforcement, and one of the things that we've seen over the last several years is an increasing threat to law enforcement. I think 2021 had the highest number of officers shot and killed in the line of duty in something like a couple decades, and it is happening at a pace of about one every 5 days in this country. So law enforcement, which was always a dangerous job, is even more dangerous right now.
Thank you for that. Secretary Mayorkas, I'll end my questions with you. The SSP program is critical to all communities that are caring for recent arrivals to our country. I was encouraged to see the administration's supplemental request, including an additional $1.4 billion in SSP grant funding for local governments and nonprofits. This money, as you know, helps to provide food, shelter, and other services for recently arrived migrants. However, I know my colleague, Senator Sinema, and I are both concerned about money that's going to border states, which are bearing the brunt of receiving migrants. Can you please share with us how that funding will be prioritized, including whether border states will receive their fair share?
Thank you very much, Senator. The Shelter and Services Program, the SSP program, is of critical in providing border communities and interior cities with the resources they need to address the housing and transportation, food, and shelter of individuals who are in immigration proceedings under our law. We have sought $1.4 billion. We have learned a great deal from our prior administration of the Shelter and Services Program and its predecessor, the Emergency Food and Shelter Program. We do intend to engage extensively with border communities as well as interior cities with respect to the allocation of the funds should Congress execute on what we believe is desperately needed, and we will be fair and equitable and ensure that the funds are distributed according to where the need is greatest.